All right, Hector, are you ready?
It looks
Oh,
like
Lucero, sorry.
Counselor
Mayor.
Greider's
Great.
in the attendees.
What's that?
Counselor Greider's in the attendees.
Okay.
I don't either.
Really? Yeah, I thought she's in with panelists now.
Maybe I'm lagging. Is it Pamela's already here?
You might be lagging.
I thought she had a conflict, a work summit or something.
She's here. The only absent is Dave.
Well, is this computer the one that's Counselor
Yeah,
Greider?
yeah, that's this computer.
Oh. Oh, that's.
It's not the real Counselor Greider.
It's not the real Counselor Greider. All right, well, we have a quorum, so I'm ready to start.
Let's see.
Lucero, are you ready?
Yes, Mayor, I'm ready.
Okay,
In attending?
so we will call the May 15th Talent City Council regular meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Counselor Colley,
Here.
Counselor Plummer,
Here.
Counselor Greider is not present. Counselor Pestizo is not present. Counselor Byers,
Here.
Counselor Miller, here. Mayor Ayers-Black,
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Lucero. Item number 2 on the agenda is additions or corrections to the agenda. Anybody? All right, seeing none, we'll move to item number 3. Community announcements.
Mayor and members of the council, a few upcoming events and some other announcements as well. On May 18th, we have a citywide yard sale happening from, I think it's 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. On May 22nd, the Talent Business Alliance is hosting a business mixer at Suncrest. Got that right? Suncrest Place from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. On May 29th, we have a commission and committee chair summit here from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Representatives of the League of Oregon Cities will be here as well. Yes.
I think we have a question. Counselor Byers?
Just checking in. I thought that meeting was scheduled for 6:30. But apparently 5:30.
What
The
time did
summit?
you have?
Are you
Yeah.
talking about the summit?
Yeah,
meeting?
did I just totally track that
No, I
incorrectly?
think you're right. I think it's because there's a meeting before for budget.
Right.
Oh, right.
Okay, so we have budget at 5:30 and summit meeting at 6:30.
I mean, I'm here either way, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, everybody's right.
Right.
There's a meeting happening at 5:30 and 6:30.
it's for the public to attend as well. If they would like.
We do make the occasional mistake.
so it'll be 6:30 until 8. All right,
Thank you,
sorry.
Jerry. Thank you,
Uh,
Counselor Byers.
June 5th is the first day to pick up election packets for the upcoming city council election. Ongoing city notices, we've got citizens alert, encouraging residents to sign up and receive emergency alerts to their preferred devices. You can go to the website to do that, as I understand. Weed abatement is happening now. We have notices that have been sent out to about 100 landowners, reminding them that fire season is starting and that we are seeking to have folks keep their weeds at 6 inches or shorter starting May 15th. The city is also working on the weed abatement on its own public property. So we had quite a growing year here. So vegetation
A
is
lot of rain this spring.
a big challenge.
Yeah.
Other news, town hall, as you know, had a fire. It was inspected again yesterday by a team of adjusters joined by George Kramer. And they went through the building. We've also received a report dated May 13th from the Evergreen Environmental Solutions, which is a report on conditions that they found in the building when they did some testing. They tested for asbestos residue, lead paint, and fire odor in the building, and it's quite an extensive report. There needs to be some cleanup work done as a result of that report. We're going to be talking with the insurance adjusters, contractors, and staff to come up with a plan to address the immediate and longer term issues at Town Hall. Some of the issues that have come up in the course of looking at how to schedule the repairs from the fire relate to longer standing underlying structural problems that were not related to the fire at Town Hall. And we need to get some additional professional advice on how to structure the approach to dealing with those. I am also recommending that the council consider holding a workshop on the topic of Town Hall, planning for its future use, and going over all of the information that we're collecting about its condition. So we'll be scheduling that when we've got all of the data ready. There's some issues that I think the council needs to discuss in terms of its future use, the building's future use, how we deal with the existing kitchen, which is part of the cleanup need, but is also an outdated facility. So just a list of issues that we want to talk about, get on a more comprehensive plan for getting the building restored and in future use. Also wanted to announce a few things about staffing. As the council knows, the city recorder, Lucero Martinez, is leaving us this month. And we wish her well with her new family. And also this month, actually Friday, is the last working day for Robert Slayton, who's 11-year city employee, public works superintendent, who is relocating out of state. So both will be missed. We thank them for their service. Some other staffing announcements. We've had some other vacancies occur. And just to kind of run down the list, following Lucero's departure, Hector Flores is going to step back into the city recorder role. We're going to be doing some modification of duties and responsibilities there, and we'll report more on that to the city council as we get that sorted out. In community development and planning, as you know, Kristen Mays resigned several weeks ago. I have gone ahead and reclassified Nick Schubert, the community development planner, as the city planner. He will manage the day-to-day affairs of the department, type 1 and type 2 applications, be the contact person at the counter, do site reviews and meet with prospective developers. The type 3 and type 4 applications and long-range planning activities, including management of current long-range planning contracts, has been contracted to the Rogue Valley Council of Governments. They have a planning staff who's capable of doing that work, and is also capable of providing technical advice and oversight to Nick Schubert. So that is a contract that will be ongoing for at least 6 months while we evaluate how all of that works. Those are some major changes, and we want to make sure things go well. In other departments, we have announcing the appointment of Gao Ying Zhang Bagoa as the city engineer and public works administrator. She starts work on June 3rd. Gao Ying comes from the city of Roseburg Public Works Department. She's a licensed civil engineer. She'll take on administrative responsibilities in the public works area from both Robert Staton, who's leaving, and myself. She won't be the director of that department, but will perform administrative support activities. She'll be the city's representative to a number of intergovernmental entities and do some engineering. And we will reduce our reliance upon a contract engineer. And just today, we went ahead and ordered the software that she needs to be able to design projects such as the water pipeline project that you acted on at the last meeting, instead of sending that out for contract services. Noted that Robert Slayton is leaving. I have appointed Ron Davis as the acting superintendent. Ron's been with the city for several years. He's a maintenance worker too. And he'll be reporting directly to me. And he'll be supervising the day-to-day activity of the crew. And I think that covers quite a collection of changes that we're going through at the moment. We've had some other vacancies in public works, and we're in the process of hiring to fill in some of those gaps.
Any questions? Councilor Penamara?
Thanks. Yeah, Gary, so for, I guess it's Chanel out of RVCOG, we'll be
Yes.
working with. Any idea, how many hours a week will be, are you gonna play it by ear?
Kind of playing it by ear. We're not sure what kind of applications will come in. But one of the advantages of doing this on a contract basis is that you don't have to pay if there's a lower level of activity for the employee to be here.
So I guess, because I'm thinking about the work that Kristen was doing, and I'm thinking about, you know, the annexation, and is that gonna be the RVCOGs or the new engineer?
The annexation's done. The railroad district study is being performed largely by a contract planner, although we've needed to provide quite a bit of technical information. So the new city engineer will help with that as well, and provide information. So we'll be pulling from other parts of the organization as needed to fill those kinds of gaps.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I look forward to all these changes. It sounds pretty exciting.
It's sad to see employees leave, but it's an opportunity for others to gain experience, get more involved. They're excited about working for the city of town.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Gary. Anybody else with community announcements? Councilor Byers.
We've got a Rogue World Music Festival coming up next weekend with 2 events here in Talent on Saturday, May 25th. Both are free. First is a singing workshop at Talent Commons Library Park. And following that, about an hour later, is the Heartbeat Stories, which brings together community members and main stage artists sharing stories connected to the theme of home. Again, it's free, and I believe I just roped our mayor into sharing a story there. So,
Thank you.
so now it's on the record.
Yeah. Clever girl. Anybody else? Looking forward to the holiday. It's going to be a great event.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for community announcements. Before I go to speakers heard on non-agenda items, are there any speaker request forms?
No, Mayor, I didn't receive any. speaker request forms.
Are there any speaker request forms from online?
I don't see any raised hands.
I had a chance to look at the new website and look at some of the, inquiry forms and request forms, and my hat's off to you guys. Nice work. It looks great. It was really easy to navigate and really easy to find. So with that, I'll go to speakers heard on non-agenda item. There are none. The next item on the agenda is public presentations. 5.1 is presentations from rural development initiatives.
And they will be here remotely. Are they ready? Okay.
Yes, we are here.
Well, I'll just, this is a presentation by Rural Development Initiatives. They're making a presentation this evening primarily on the Main Street Economic Vitality Program. I'm familiar with the Main Street program. As I was the city manager in Fort Bragg, California. Fort Bragg was one of the first 5 cities in the state to be designated as a Main Street city. It is an outstanding program to assist in downtown revitalization and promotion. Extremely successful in Fort Bragg. I was also fortunate to introduce the program to the city of Southgate, a city where their downtown business district called the Tweedy Mile. Their downtown association was kind of floundering. That was a much larger city, but they adopted the Main Street program and really brought new vitality to the organization, as well as the downtown business district in a city that had an older conventional business district for a mile in the older downtown area of Los Angeles County, in competition with the big boxes that were popping up all around them. So they were able to utilize the concepts of the Main Street program to turn a declining business district into a thriving business district. So those are the 2 main experiences I've had with the program. Attended a lot of their workshops over the years, seen a lot of success stories. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it's a good program. So with that, I'm going to turn you over to RDI. They have a presentation for you tonight on the program and are really here to see if the city may be interested in pursuing this further. So introduce yourselves.
All right. Thank you so much for that introduction, Gary. And good evening, Mayor and councilors. My name is Kayla Catino. I am a former employee and now consultant with Rural Development Initiative. So I've been with the organization for about 3 years. I am based in Silverton, Oregon, so in the Willamette Valley, east of Salem. And I am joined by my colleague, Kevin Teeter, who's also a consultant on this project. And Kevin, do you want to take a minute to introduce yourself before we get into it?
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, thank you all for having us. I'm based up here in Beaverton. I was the executive director of our Main Street program up here in Beaverton for about 4 years. And over the past 2 years, I've been doing some various consulting work with Main Streets across the state, mostly rural and small town Main Street programs, either communities that are starting up their Main Street programs or that have been doing it for a while and need some support. So I've been able to work with rural development initiatives on some of this too. So we're excited to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, what we're going to present tonight. So we've developed a program in partnership with Oregon Main Street and the Main Street Network, and Kevin will talk a little bit about that later, but that's what Gary was talking about, the overarching Main Street organization that's national and has it's at the state too. But rural development initiatives, yes, partnered with Oregon Main Street, and we've developed this program called this Main Street Economic Vitality Program. And the purpose of this is really to enhance the community capacity to provide these strong ongoing support and focusing on economic vitality in the region. So I'm just going to start with a little bit of RDI. There's like a lot of partners within this program. So we just want to let you know kind of who all these key players are and what this program is all about. So yeah, if those of you who have not heard of RDI yet, we are a nonprofit, been around for about 30 years, was formed around the turn of when the timber industry, all those changes happened in the early 90s, and rural communities were reaching out to Business Oregon, and we're like, what do we do? We need to rebuild our economies. So the organization actually was designated by the state, and then we became a nonprofit to help rural communities thrive and diversify their economies. So now 30 years later, we do a variety of programs within rural, and we serve the Pacific Northwest. So we're serving Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. And we do that in 4 different ways to strengthen rural communities. And that's to develop a network of rural leaders. So we have a rural leadership program, used to be called the Ford Institute Leadership Program, FILP. And I believe we were probably in Talent years ago, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, doing that. So you all might be familiar with RDI through that program. And we still do that. It's just a different model than what it used to be, but we still have that rural community leadership program. And then we also focus on revitalizing rural communities. So that's our economic development. So we'll do Main Street program as a part of that. We also offer business programs in Spanish. And actually, we were in the Talent Phoenix area a couple of years ago. My colleagues with our Pasos El Éxito program, I think, was focusing on childcare. So how to start a childcare business delivered in Spanish for the Spanish speaking community. So we've been in the region a little bit more recently too. Also focusing on elevating rural voices and priorities. That's our advocacy piece. So we do have staff members that are advocating for when policies come out of how that affects rural, and it's just like our collective knowledge of supporting rural communities. We can see what those needs are and advocate for rural needs at the state level. And then improving access to resources. We have a grant writing class that communities can go through, and are always connecting projects with some funding sources. So we are just all about supporting those rural communities. I'm going to give it to Kevin to talk a little bit about the Main Street.
Great. So Kayla just shared a lot of rural development initiatives, really great experience working with rural communities across the Pacific Northwest. Now, what we saw here is that there was a real opportunity to bring together the RDI expertise alongside the Oregon Main Street network to provide some trainings and support in areas where communities were demonstrating a fairly consistent and recurring need for support. And that's specifically within this economic vitality realm of the Main Street approach, which I'll talk more about in a minute. But first, I wanted to highlight how these relationships and partnerships kind of play out here. So Gary spoke a little bit about Main Street in general and past experiences in California. Now, Main Streets are scattered throughout the entire nation, and they're overseen at the highest level by the Main Street America Coordinating Program. This is a national organization that provides really great oversight and guidance for statewide coordinating organizations. So here in Oregon, we've got the Oregon Main Street Program, which is housed within the Oregon Parks and Rec Department. Now, there are over 100 different Main Street programs across the state at varying levels of resources and leadership abilities and at various stages of their life cycles. So that's shown in these 4 boxes here at the bottom left, where it goes from connected, affiliated, designated, accredited. Those are basically the categorizations of life cycle on how well running a Main Street program is. So talent is actually here at the connected level. That basically means you all are exploring what it would mean to be part of the Main Street network. You're exploring Main Street revitalization efforts and seeing what might work best for your community. Now, as Main Street programs get stronger budgets, more community leadership and community involvement, and begin implementing some of the Main Street goals and priorities that they have, they'll see themselves start stepping up in those tier levels. So we really wanted to partner RDI with the Oregon Main Street Network to implement some of the Main Street approach. So we'll talk about that a little bit on this next slide here.
Yeah, and I'll just add that this program, we'll get into some of the details, but we write a grant to USDA, a rural capacity, RCDI, rural capacity development initiatives. Oh, I'm forgetting, but it's a USDA rural development grant. So that this program is free for communities to participate. And we are looking for match funding, and I'll talk about that funding afterwards. But so yeah, this whole program is a partnership with Oregon Main Street, RDI, and USDA Rural Development.
Yeah, thank you, Kayla. Can't forget the funders. Okay, so we want to talk here about the Oregon Main Street approach. So this is the model for economic development that's successfully revitalized thousands of main streets across the nation over the past 4 decades. Now, what makes it really special is that it is very comprehensive in its approach for community development. And these 4 main categories are shown in this little graphic here, where we will be focusing most if we're working with you all and through this program in the economic vitality piece of this. So I'll highlight this one first and then give just a quick overview of the rest. But economic vitality really focuses on building up your business support network for your Main Street district, building out the healthy entrepreneurship ecosystem so it's easier for people to start up businesses and grow businesses in your community, and just understanding what it is that your Main Street economy actually needs so that your grassroots support can really provide a foundation that helps it move forward. Now, this is paired with each of these other 3 points: design that focuses on the beauty of downtown, greenery, plants, art, historic preservation, building condition, streetscapes, lighting. It's paired with promotion that focuses on sharing your Main Street story, sharing that there is a Main Street to enjoy, sharing that there are new businesses opening, basically getting the word out that this is a place that people should want to be. And then organization here at the bottom left is really the foundational piece that's focused on funding and leadership capacity and community partnerships. But when all of these 4 pieces are moving forward together, we're able to get a really well-rounded approach for community development. Now, the strength of Main Street is that it is grassroots. It is based on what your strengths are as local communities, and it is adaptable. So when we talk about this Economic Vitality Hubs program in the next slide, we'll really talk about how we're building on community assets and we're tailoring it to the needs that each of the participating communities have. So we'll go through a timeline and the timeline of the program in just a moment, but I wanted to provide some high-level program benefits of why you might have an interest in this. What is in it for you all? So first, you'll have a connection to a really great network of communities that are going through similar experiences with their Main Street programs. Now, this is, as an example, we're working with several other communities along the South Coast right now. We're working in Bandon, Cave Junction, Coquille, and Reedsport. And so we try to cluster communities together based off of their similar conditions or similar experiences or similar cultures, because they can then learn from each other then too. The second point here is just increased understanding of Main Street economic growth strategies and tools. So this is where we really get into trainings for community members, business owners, property owners, elected leaders, anybody who wants to be a part of moving Main Street forward will have a better baseline understanding of how that can actually happen, how that can work. Now, we will do some in-depth trainings. These will be both virtual workshops that are open to the primary hub communities and communities that just want to learn. It's very open for anyone who wants to come learn, but we'll also do in-person technical assistance where we will either come visit your community and spend time with your Main Street leaders, or we can do some virtual technical assistance too. But basically, we want to touch on a lot of different topics that are relevant for downtown economic vitality. This includes core leadership development. It includes business engagement, historic preservation, energy efficiency, and a few other topics. But we'll see those here on this next slide. So the program is about a year and a half, a year and 9 months long. What you're seeing here is just the first year breakdown. We tried to keep it very high level right here. So in Q1, we have a kickoff call with communities where we get a deeper dive into what y'all are experiencing and the needs that you all have, so that as we build out the rest of this program for you all and with you all, it's able to touch on some of the needs that you're experiencing. Economic Vitality 101 is that base training that gives a good foundation for economic development strategies and tools. But then there are other trainings that are shown here on the slides that teach people about leadership skills or business owner and property owner engagement. Like, how are we reaching the absentee business owners or property owners, or how are we really connecting and building that base of support across all of Main Street? The orange boxes there are where we suggest having in-person technical assistance to build on some of these trainings.
Yeah, and we do partner with organizations too. So you'll see those other logos, WealthWorks, which is a model of building and diversifying wealth in your communities based on multiple forms of assets or capital. And then we also partner with Reinventing Rural, Brad Addig, to come in and talk about innovation and entrepreneurship. So we are bringing other professionals into the field to deliver some of these trainings as well.
Yeah. And some of those partners are listed here on this second slide too. And this is a really exciting part of the program where we can get fellow experts in the field with expertise that might not be in your community or even in any of the other participating communities to come and share some of that information. Clatsop Community College gives a really great preservation on energy efficiency in older historic buildings. We got Boise State University, a professor come in and talk about disaster resilience and what does that actually mean for Main Streets, and what is their role in building a resilient economy and resilient community. And so there are a few additional trainings here in the second year of the program. And then final in-person technical assistance, where we'll really focus in on some of the needs that have been highlighted over the course of the year to year and a half, and help set you all up so that you can continue the work after RDI is no longer involved. Because the goal is to build skill sets in the community so that then you all can take it and run with it and really build up your own Main Street.
Yeah. So a little bit about, like, maybe you're like, oh, that sounds great, but like, what do you need from us? So I'm trying to answer these questions, and we will have time for Q&A. I think this is the last slide here. So commitment, like we said, it's about a year and a half. The RCDI funding, that's that rural development funding. It hasn't been posted yet. We're like checking it every single day for it to come out. It's a huge application, usually due around July. And so it's a 2-year program. So if we get it, this would be for 2025 to 2026 year. And then we do ask that there's at least 2 community members joining the virtual sessions. That just helps build that continuity in your community. And it can be staff members or volunteers in the community. And that's the third point there, is really that local champion. I think we have found that the most effective program is really if there's a local community champion, maybe a volunteer in your community, or a paid staff member who is dedicated to some Main Street efforts, who is attending and really like gathering the troops and gathering momentum and coordinating our on-person technical assistance with a larger group. We do have field work, how these workshops are designed, that there's usually like, we'll present ideas, and then there's some like some action steps for you to do to do out in your community. So we do just ask that you do them, because that will help you follow along in the program. And then the last part, like I said, this program, it is free for communities, but we do that USDA Rural Development Grant is a match grant. So we do need match funding, and it is about $15,000 per community for that. And we have grant writers on staff that have already started looking at possible, funders. We actually have a good relationship with Pacific Power, and they have funded this program in the past, and we do have an ask out to them to provide some match funding. So I don't want you to be scared from that number. Like, if we'll talk to you to see if you guys have any ideas, and then our grant writers and development people on staff can help, write funding and make some connections as well. So it really is a collaborative effort. But just so you know, we will be looking for some match funding based on the community, either through foundations or utility companies or anything others you guys might suggest if you want to participate. So that is the end of the presentation, but I want to stop now and see if you all have any questions.
Questions, anybody? Council Penamara?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure, not quite sure, what is oh, by the way, I'm familiar with Main Street, and I think you guys do great work. The deliverable at the end, is it some kind of a plan, or, what is the deliverable?
Yeah, good question. It's an economic vitality action plan. So that is the end deliverable. So you'll have, an action plan focused on that. Like Kevin said, the technical assistance is catered to the communities too. So for example, we've been doing this in Coquille, who didn't even have a main street. So we're just trying to gather interest right now. So we've done a few community meetings. So that technical assistance and the end result looks very different for that community based on, for example, Reedsport, who's very established, and we're going to do action planning with them in a couple of months. So that's why we have kind of kickoff calls and check-in calls to, at the very beginning, we're going to ask you what are your goals at the end of this. So there is flexibility within the program, but yes, by the end, there is some kind of deliverable, whether that's an action plan or a Main Street committee formed and acting, so it's really different based on the community and where you're at.
I have a question. We actually engaged with Main Street Oregon shortly after the fire, and we had some program exchange, and then they also provided a grant for Malmgren Garage. So when you for a piece of property that burned in the fire but has been restored, by the way, it's beautiful. It just completed. So when you say that talent is at the connection stage, is that reflective of that established relationship or not?
Yes. Yep. So that just means the relationship is starting to be built out. To be able to move up to one of the next tiers, there are a series of boxes that need to be checked, and I don't have those on me right now, but they're available on the Oregon Main Street website, and we can also email those to you all too.
Yeah, and that is one of the great things about this program too, is that even just being that connected to community, you are eligible for those grants for buildings. There's even a Diamonds in the Rough for a facade improvement too. So there are multiple grants through Main Street that you are eligible for, no matter what level you're at.
Fantastic. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Byers?
I do, and I'm going to preface this by saying I don't expect you to have an answer, but I'm still going to ask the question. So you are presenting on economic revitalization, downtown revitalization, and yet to me, it seems like discussing commerce or the way downtown looks is just one aspect of truly revitalizing a community. There's also social engagement, civic engagement, developing that sense of place and character and personality that is compelling to both the people who live there and drawing visitors to the area. And I'm wondering if there are any other sister programs or research that you know of that would be paired well with economic development.
Great question.
Yeah. Kevin, do you want to answer that or take your shot and then I can add in?
I was just going to say that this is a really great question, and we touch on this in one of our first trainings, where we talk about economic vitality not being the main outcome itself. Like, we don't want to grow businesses just to grow businesses if the rest of the community is suffering. So I really like the framing of the question, but as far as sister programs, I would have to think on that and get back to you.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole Main Street model too, is that holistic view of Main Streets as that cultural center, that place to bring people together. And how this program was formed with the state coordinating office, because Sherry Stewart at the state just really saw that this economic vitality committee was just there were committees that like love that, bringing events or doing wine walks and things like that. That's all the fun part of Main Street, but the economic vitality is just a little bit harder to grasp. So that's why we developed this program. That is, so it definitely is focused on that. But yeah, like Kevin said, that we also look at those multiple forms of assets within the community, and they are interlinked. But yes, this is focused on economic vitality. And I'll also share, Kevin's a Main Street consultant, and I also do consulting. And I think through the Oregon Main Street Network, there might be some other opportunities. And I think that's also where the networking piece can come in. Like, we'd also be happy to connect you with some of the communities we've been working with. Like, Reedsport is doing some really fun, creative ways to engage the community and businesses and get people into businesses. Bandon does some neat things too. So I think that's also where maybe, yeah, some of that networking to see what other communities do can come in.
Great. Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, and I'm also wondering, do you typically work with like Chamber of Commerce? Here we have the Talent Business Alliance, Travel Oregon, some of the local things going on. If you were to come in and do your thing, could you dovetail with like ongoing initiatives in any way?
Yes, definitely. So one of the next steps, like if you decide to move forward with this, when the application comes out, there might be a few forms for the city, to submit for part of the application. And once we have those communities, part of this is also like learning what other partners are involved. So we do partner with Travel Oregon. So your regional, I think you might be the South, whatever your region is, but we will partner with them too. And we have like calls with them to network and see like what's going on. And I would invite them to the kickoff call too, to just hear like what's happening within these different departments and how can this program really like enhance. Because yeah, part of this too, like the first session on economic vitality, we do a stakeholder analysis to help. We want to help those Main Street committees to be like, think like just broader of all of these, other support systems within the ecosystem that are supporting Main Street. So yes, this is all about like partnerships and collaborations too. So for sure.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you so much.
You're
And we'll be in touch.
Yep, we'll do some follow-up with them.
All right,
Thank
sounds
you all.
like I said, the application isn't out yet, but yeah, let us know. And once it's out, we'll let you know what you have to do too, if you're interested.
Great.
All right. Have a good evening. Thanks.
See y'all.
Okay, next on the agenda is item 5.2, and that's presentations on town hall restoration.
Tessa is here to do this presentation. She is the finance director, but turned town hall advocate, and has taken this under her wing.
Great, thank you. I need to know how to share this presentation. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. Awesome, thank you. I'll find the right one. Sorry about that. I'm technically challenged. Why is it not sharing the screen that I want to share? That one? Is that the correct share? Okay.
I know. How long was it? Yeah.
Great. All right, thank you very much. I'm Tessa DeLine, Finance Director, and here to give you a short presentation on the Talents Historic Town Hall Restoration. The Historic Town Hall is one of the first public buildings to be erected here in the City of Talent. It's a large 4,870 square foot wood framed building located in the heart of the downtown. It sits on the northwest corner of East Main and North Market Street, and it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in March of 2012. Built in 1899, it was used as the first Talent Elementary School, and in 1910, it was purchased by the City of Talent. And for many years, it was known as a community center, and I still call it the community center. It's kind of hard to get that out of my brain. I think it changed about 25 years ago. So additional uses for the town hall include government offices. It was used for admin. I believe the police was involved in the use of the town hall. It was used as a public library, a polling place, a food bank. It was used for community events, was used for council chambers. It's used as a rental facility and has been used for other functions. In 2019, a building assessment was conducted by the Talent Urban Renewal Agency, and that building assessment report was prepared by George Kramer, and we're currently working with him right now for the restoration and the correction for the smoke damage that happened at Town Hall from the fire. In that 2019 report, it included acoustic improvements, accessibility, energy efficiency upgrades, general building repair, building functionality, and some aesthetic upgrades. The cost of the improvements back in 2018 was a little over $220,000. And the repairs and the upgrades to the building was expected to occur over a 4-year period. The cost of these items have likely increased substantially in price since that time. Unfortunately, these projects were never completed. In 2020, the Alameda fire occurred, and the focus of the City of Talent and the Talent Urban Renewal Agency was placed on fire survivors and the rebuilding of the Talent community. Included in these upgrades for acoustic improvements was chalkboard panels, chalk tray options, carpet installation. There was discussion of having an ADA lift in the front of the building, along with ADA restroom construction at the back of the building. There was some energy efficiency upgrades that were included, like window repairs, an IGU option, which I don't know what that is, thermal shades, vapor barrier, and encapsulation. Then there was some general building repairs outlined, such as repair of the front stairs, structural assessment, foundation repair, rear entryway to be repaired, and a basement access door. Looks like it was to be either repaired or replaced. Building functions, there was discussion of renovating the kitchen, removing the grills and such, and creating a meeting space. That was part of that. And then also there was discussion of having a partition in the main hallway so you could have events on both sides of the building. And for aesthetic purposes, wainscot and trim and some painting and some foyer upgrades were discussed. Just last year, a structural engineer was hired, and it was determined that there were numerous structural issues that were wrong with the building. Some of the concerning items included wood sill plates have deteriorated and the wall studs are in contact with the soil. Cracks in the mortar and stone blocks have dislodged from the stem wall and the foundation. Plaster wall finishes are cracking and the floor is unlevel and causing cracks in the floor tile. Where you can really see where the floor is unlevel is between the 1950s edition and the 1899 original footprint of the building. And last month, we all know about the fire that occurred, and two quick thinking City of Talent employees discovered the smoke emanating from the basement on their way to set up for your council meeting. The fire department was called and they quickly extinguished the fire. There was significant smoke damage observed in the basement, and there was some damage to the floor and the electrical system. On Tuesday, I had the opportunity to meet with the insurance adjusters and actually see the damages that occurred in the basement, and it's pretty extensive. It used to have white paint in there. It's pretty dark in there. It does not look well. So there's going to be some cleanup within the walls, on the paint. Some of the plaster needs to be cleaned up, and in order to clean the plaster, they have to correct the plaster. There's a lot of work that's going to be involved. And I do believe some of our equipment that's used for council meeting may have been affected by the fire as well. And what's really important to note is that there are no fire alarms or fire suppression systems in that building. So right now I'm making phone calls to companies here in the state of Oregon and trying to get quotes on that. So we can get maybe some grant funding to assist us to get that implemented, because it's really important to save that building if that ever happens again. I'd like to share with you some photos of current structural and cosmetic issues. It's a photo right here of foundational cracks. The mortar is cracking and the stones are dislodging. This photo is of when you first walk up to the front of the building and you see the stair steps, and it's on the right-hand side. It's the side facing the MISO office and the Talent Business Alliance office. The cracks are all the way through the foundation. We have rotting stair steps. Safety of the building's users and guests must be of a top priority. I know that this photo is of the steps that's going up to the kitchen. I know that the steps that are used by the Talent Business Alliance, they are a bit rickety, and then there's some discussion on possibly replacing the stairway in the very beginning of the building. And that is, from my understanding, is not the original steps and stairs, so it can actually be replaced. If you walk around the back of the building, you'll notice that we have sagging and damaged gutters. In addition, there's a cedar tree or a group of cedar trees that's growing next to the foundation, and it's going underneath the roof line and impacting the gutters. It's filling up the gutters with dirt, and I guess there's weeds growing out of there. It needs to be cleaned, and it needs to be addressed as soon as possible. There are lots of missing and cracked floor tiles, and that's part of the structural issues. It's my understanding. We took a look at the floor tiles on Tuesday, and then we recognized that there's additional tiles underneath those existing floor tiles. They may have been installed probably maybe in the 70s, maybe. Don't know if that's something that would be of a problem with asbestos, because that was not tested. Underneath, I know that underneath those tiles, it should be some hardwood, but I don't know if that's something that can be restored. There are holes in plaster walls all over the town hall. The building has extensive plaster damage due to structural issues, mistreatment, and just downright neglect. If you walk around the building, you'll see that downspouts are clogged and rusted. Some are actually pulling away from the building itself. This photo right here, I wasn't quite sure if that rust on this downspout was completely all the way through, because when I touched it with my finger, it was wet and it was a dry day. So I'm thinking that this might not even have metal around it. It's probably in two pieces. We have issue with moss and weeds on the roof and the gutters. We need to be taking a look at the roof and making sure that there's no leaks going on, causing any issues to the attic or the out into exterior walls. And as you continue walking around the town hall, you'll see peeling exterior paint. There's wood that is exposed, increasing the possibility of damage from pests and dry rot. Also, on the interior, there's extensive cracking on the interior walls. I think every corner of that building has big, large cracks going up through the corners of the building. If you look up towards the ceiling, you'll see cracks that are going sideways on the top, and that could be as a result of the foundational issues. We just need to get somebody in there to verify that. And what's not included in the original assessment that occurred back in 2019? Repair and replacement of gutters and downspouts, exterior paint, cleaning and repair of the roof, damages that resulted from the April 2024 fire. Fortunately, it's going to be submitted to insurance, and that will help with some of that. We need to repair the exterior rock and mortar foundation. There's discussion of providing a new foundation that you can't see from the outside, but on the interior of the building to provide more structural support and take the pressure off of the exterior rock and mortar foundation. And then there's probably hidden issues that we don't even know about, such as dry rot or water damage to the attic or walls, or possibly even the bell tower. And fire suppression, again, I brought that back up. That's, to me, is really important. And cost of an alarm system. We'll have that figured out probably within the next few weeks, what estimates we can come up with for that. And then what's the current financial situation? Unfortunately, the City of Talent allocated funds for more pressing public issues and is unable to adequately address the town hall in the foreseeable future. The Talent Urban Renewal Agency may be able to help, but it's no longer a revenue generating agency, and its primary focus is on the redeveloping of the gateway land on the corner of Highway 99 and West Valley View Road. Unfortunately, the needs of Talent's historic town hall are immediate. As time goes on, the problems become worse and worse. We risk losing our beloved building if we don't act quickly. So what are we doing now about it? We just recently applied for the Preserving Oregon grant through the State Historical Preservation Office, SHPO. It's currently in the scoring process, and we should find out if we're able to achieve that grant within the next few months. And it's a $25,000 grant with $25,000 matching funds. We're also working on identifying and preparing for other grant opportunities, such as the T-Mobile Hometown Grant, the SHPO Main Street Grant, the Kinsman Foundation, and other similar foundations. We're also thinking of creative ways to get much needed funding through partnerships, volunteers, and donations. Our federal discretionary funding application that I do believe went out just a couple of months ago, we found that it was not competitive. So that's not an option at this point in time. So where do we go from here? Well, first of all, we're looking for any financial support that the community can provide. We would love to have some help in the form of grant writers, donations, and or volunteers. We'll need assistance with fundraisers. And it would be wonderful if you hear of any grants, give us some leads so we can pounce on that to get more grant opportunities. And what's also really important is just getting help with getting the word out about the preservation of Talent's historic town hall. Thank you. And do you have any questions?
Go ahead, Councilor Panama. Yeah, I have a few questions. So I heard you say at the beginning, there's no fire suppression system in the building because it's old, right?
Correct.
Did you also say there was no smoke detectors in that building?
That is correct.
I find that really disturbing that these are things you can just put it on the wall, right? With battery.
Yeah, and it would be nice to be able to get sprinklers put in the system. I know that the roof, Ron might be able to help me. The roof is not original, correct? That's up at the top. The ceiling. So it might be easier to get the fire suppression in that in the ceiling.
Yeah,
would be
which
nice.
Great, but meanwhile, I hope we've got some smoke detectors in there.
Take a look. I didn't see any. Did you ever see any in yours?
I don't know.
Do you have one in your office?
I think so,
Okay,
yeah. I'll have to look. I mean, I honestly have never even looked for one.
I know there's a fire extinguisher in there. I saw that the other day.
Yeah.
So as far as funding, is the Historical Society taking this on as a project?
Not at this time.
Are they interested? I don't know if you've had the chance to talk to them about it.
We have had a brief discussion, one of the last meetings we had. I basically said, we need to focus on restoring this building. For the Historical Society to take over, that's a completely different conversation. I wanted to make sure that we were focused on the restoration of the building. They could be a partnership in some ways, but right now there's some immediate needs to be addressed.
And the third question I had is about, now, it may not be a good idea, but could we transfer within the CIP budget towards this from something else? Either, well, this year we can do what we want, right, as far as where we put in, but can we, is it emergency enough?
There is no funding in the CIP budget as far as like for the facilities and such.
But we have projects in the CIP budget that we're funding, that we're saving up money to do something with. I'm just wondering really what kind of transfers can we do?
It depends on, in my opinion, it depends on the origination of the funds. Like, let's say, for instance, we moved money from SDCs to water. You don't want to be moving it from water to general projects. I probably would have already entertained that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't at this.
That's not a good option. Although this year, as we're doing the budget, we could shift, right? Some of the things that we're saving up for. You might think it's not a good idea. And that's
I probably would have already entertained that, to answer the question.
There is a possibility about discussing selling Home Street and using the proceeds through Tura. I think that is a worthy conversation to advance to urban renewal.
And the Tura Budget Committee allocated $250,000 towards the renovation of Town Hall, the last Tura budget meeting.
Yeah.
So that's good seed money, but in my opinion, the original report outlined $228,000 in 2018 $228,000. There's more renovations that need to occur, and it's going to be twice as expensive as it was back then.
Counselor Byers?
The deadline just ended for this year, but next first Wednesday of May, the Oregon Cultural Trust will have their cultural development capacity building grants. Cultural development community support grants.
Okay.
And so those require 25% or more funding to already be secured. We clearly have that through Flora. And one of the 4 main categories that they prioritize is preservation. So I think this could be a really competitive grant.
Thank you. So hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that.
I'd also looked into Ford Family Foundation for their technical assistance grant for strategic planning. It's a low barrier, easy to get grant, and allows, it funds, a consultant to help build a strategic plan for the overall project.
And we will need that because, we were already thinking about the renovation of this. Then the fire occurred. Well, part of the restoration issues from the fire is fixing the plaster. But if you fix the plaster and clean the plaster, and then you go in and then put the foundational, try to correct the foundation, you might be cracking the plaster all over again. So there's going to have to be a discussion on what's going to be the first thing out of the chute as far as the correction for Town Hall, the restoration for Town Hall.
Counselor Byers?
To that note, additional seed money, I think for strategic planning would be the Jackson County Cultural Coalition grant, and that deadline is coming up in September.
Okay, great.
And they only do requests of $3,000 or less, so it's perfect for strategic planning.
That would be wonderful. That would help pay for Mr. Kramer's time.
Yeah, and that's the same with the Ford Family Foundation. It could specifically be used to pay, entirely be used to pay for George Kramer's plan.
One of the biggest things is personal time for me because, my hat's finance director, And writing grants takes a lot of time, and not only do writing the grants take time, it's the managing of the grants. That is probably the bigger piece. So, and managing, in this case, we're probably going to be looking at multiple grants to accommodate or to accomplish what we need to accomplish with this building.
Would you be, are you gonna consider then partnering with, some of the other community organizations for that piece?
I think that would be a great idea.
Great. Counselor Byers?
I know it's like an all volunteer organization, but it would, at least the grants I'm thinking of, it would make it the most competitive to partner with the Historical Society.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And perhaps I can think of two others that it would make sense to partner with TBA on.
And in listening about the presentation prior to this, made me start putting all the, pieces together, because the Main Street opportunity might be a vehicle to help with this as well.
Yeah, but we're already moving along in that process as well. Counselor Penamara?
I'm also thinking about, future use of the building as we restore it. We might get more community buy-in if it's a use that the community really supports. I mean, I see the value of the historical, having a historical building just for the sake of having that history and aesthetic beauty and all of that. But if it's also something that's a promise to the community that it will be used in a way that, makes people happy, I think that, we could get more momentum on that. And also to understand that might be, help us decide whether or not we want a meeting room or a kitchen there, for example, or maybe just a big dance hall. I think that would be fun. But anyway, so, do you see these, conversations happening in parallel?
I wouldn't, right now, my focus is on this at this point in time, getting the ground, just getting started and getting off the ground with this. I see multiple conversations in the future, and more partnerships when it comes to the restoration of town hall.
If I could just add, depending on the future use, if there's a cultural use, for example, that could move to other.
It would.
Absolutely.
If we had a designated future use, it would absolutely help us target grants.
Or multiple future uses. It could be used for 3 different things. It's just, it's up to you how you want to use this town hall. My goal, or our goal, is to, let's fix the problem. What's really important about, let's go ahead and let's fix everything. After we do this, we need to have a facility plan. We need to be doing our due diligence and our maintenance on this building on an annual basis. We need to put the money up for taking that moss off that roof and making sure that this building gets painted every 10 years or 7 years and such, because it was just only 25 years ago that this was completely renovated. And it doesn't look like it at all right now.
And the last renovation that happened, I mean, it wasn't even a renovation, there was an update that happened, and it really ended up being more technical equipment than anything else. It just wasn't, it was the new dais, it was the new, it didn't go to the building. And it was not, I don't think anybody was terribly satisfied with that outcome.
Not the renovation she's talking.
I know what renovation she's talking about, but there was money that was designated for an update, and the update just ended up being
I do believe, did it happen before COVID, right before COVID?
right before COVID.
And okay,
Yeah, and it was not like a community-led plan. It just was a plan that was executed really without any community input. And it ended up not, I don't think it was very satisfactory, but what I really appreciated hearing in this presentation is that at some point in time, there's a town hall. Because when we talk about the decision of the communities, of the future use of this building, that's really a community-led decision. I mean, we certainly will represent that in a decision-making process, but I do think that one of the most important decisions that come out of that town hall is what is the future use of that building and how do we see it?
and that also, let's say, for instance, you want to think about using town hall, let's say for a museum, we'll just throw it out there. What are you going to do about council chambers? Are we going to be revisiting the front of City Hall and coming up with ideas on how to extend City Hall where you can actually have your council chambers. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. Big discussions.
Big discussions. I'm kind of excited.
Me too.
Well, thank you so much for prioritizing this, Tessa, and taking this on. It's certainly timely.
It's a group effort.
Yeah, I hear that for sure.
Right. Thank you very much.
Right. So any other questions or comments? All right, so we'll be moving on to then city reports, city manager report.
Well, I pretty much covered mine under community announcements. Under urban renewal, you know, it's kind of back to the future with Pier. The city's application, you know, the history of the application through the joint application of Tura and the city for the funding for the gateway and extended gateway area redevelopment. I may have announced last time, the state came out with a letter directing Pier to basically start over in many ways, to increase the size of the committee, to add some diversity in the membership of the committee, to revisit all of the applications that have been submitted, including the ones that were recommended to date, make some other technical changes on how they operate their meetings. And they scheduled a meeting in this room tomorrow to start that process, which has now been canceled. So we're not sure what the next steps are going to be with respect to our Pier application. We need to wait a little longer to find out so that we can then then put together a budget for moving forward on the next phase for the gateway. We have had some discussions with Oregon Housing and Community Services about the future of Gateway, the current transitional housing there. And they are continuing to engage us in discussions about the disposition of the trailers. And we have a meeting with them this week on that topic. So it seems to be moving slowly, sometimes 2 steps back, 1 step forward, but we will make some progress, I'm sure, going forward as things become anew. Councillor Ponomareff is on the Pier committee and is doing a fine job there. And may have some other thoughts about that and how it might affect the urban renewal agency.
Councilor Panamarev.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. And I think you're doing such a wonderful job advocating for talent on this. I mean, I think it's very clear to me that that talent hasn't you know, received certainly what we need in terms of our recovery in comparison to Phoenix. I think one of the things I've seen on this committee is just a resistance to supporting housing, and basically based on misinformation about what the Pier infrastructure requirements are. And as a result, only about 16% of the entire funding is allocated towards housing and in support of recovery. I just want to add, there was a newspaper article that was updated recently regarding what's going on. I think there was a quote from me about the city's obligations in this matter. The city of Talent agreed to notice the meetings, which the city has been doing. I think there was one slip up in a recent meeting, but the city has been doing it. We've known about that all along. What I actually didn't understand before was that it was a 7-day notice requirement. So that was the only thing that LTRG and the state did keep us well informed of our obligations in that matter. So the last meeting was there was a lack of decorum, there was a lack of understanding. I think this committee has certainly, since I've been on it in the last several months, has matured in its understanding of what conflict of interest is, what perceived conflict of interest is. There was a learning curve involved, and I think some good discussions happened. Yeah, there's definitely more work to be done. I'm concerned about talent being treated fairly. And I'm also concerned about the displaced survivors, the micro businesses, particularly our small business owners, our Latinx community, being adequately represented, because so far that isn't happening. So just looking forward to some solutions moving forward.
I just have one comment, if I may. I've attended all of the meetings since June, and we were in peril of having our project cut because of a series of events that would have left talent who with an incredible deficit in our application, from $4.7 million down to 2.3 because of the way the process proceeded. And my hat is off to Oregon Housing Community Services for pulling back and seeing the inequitability between the two communities, the two community applications, and seeing that our application was worthy of funding. And they came to the city and did a walkthrough and saw the breadth of the project, and really pulled back to look at the equitability of the distribution of funds. And while this is costing us time, it's very frustrating. I'm particularly frustrated by the fact that the conflict of interest issue was brought up by about 7 months ago by Councilor Penamarath, and there was no corrective action until the review process. And but at the end of the day, it looks like Talent's application will be reviewed alongside of the other application, and we do have an opportunity to get a more equitable share of the funds for our own revitalization. That gateway project is pivotal to our commercial development, and it needs to get going. So back to the community-led vision of a mixed-use project there with commercial, and I believe once we start seeing some commercial development on that corner, it should inspire some more commercial development throughout the community. So again, while I found the selection committee process unbelievably frustrating and shocking in some ways, I think the state stepping in at this time and pulling it back to create more equitability has been a remarkable change in this series of events. I also want to thank Gary for your outstanding presentation for our application from the very beginning, and just really emphasizing the importance of getting this project off the ground. It's been a great pleasure to see your experience at work, and it has shown tremendously through this whole project. And I think Talent will benefit with a better grant application as a result. Over $1 million probably.
Yeah, I'm
Better.
optimistic.
And thank you, Gary. It had to be said. Anything else? The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar. Is there anything off the consent calendar that council would like to pull for discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar. Councilor Byers?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. There's a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.1 is approval of city council goals, priorities, and action plan. Staff report.
Mayor and members of the council, I didn't do a new staff report for this. I think you're familiar with the discussions we've had. Members of the management staff have filled in a lot of the blanks in the in the draft document, as well as the administration taking notes from the last meeting. I think it's ready for your consideration and adoption. We've added in the priorities, recommended priorities for the next fiscal year, right on top at the beginning. And ready for any questions or actions that you wish to take.
Are there any questions or comments? I just have one comment, Gary, and again, it's the same one as I made just a few minutes ago. This is another demonstration of your great experience, and we just really appreciate what you're bringing to the table. I think this upcoming year will really benefit from these revised goals.
Well, thank you.
Entertain a motion. Counselor Byers,
I move to adopt the updated city council goals.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to adopt the updated city goals. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 9.1 is recommendation from Architectural Review Committee for Historic District Sign Toppers. Staff report?
Mayor and members of the council, the Architectural Review Committee has made recommendations for Old Town District sign toppers to be placed at various locations within the Old Town area. 24 locations. There may be additional ones depending upon the particular condition of the support structures at those locations. The TARC has reports that they've secured a commitment from private donors to purchase the signs and furnish them to the city for installation by the Public Works Department. I believe Jack Lavatna is here this evening with an example of the signs. I won't go into the written description of the signs because you'll see the sign. I included in the packet picture of the sign, beautifully done. I would say I do need to report that the Public Works Department expressed some concern about the size of the sign being on top of the street sign pole and how it would react in the wind. Otherwise, we have no other comments. Installing the signs, the cost would be minimal.
Are there any questions or comments? They're beautiful.
Can you pass it around? How heavy is it? How heavy is it? Yeah,
Can you show it to the camera, Jack? Just so people in
so
the
people-
Zoom can see
so
it?
our friends at home
Yeah.
can see it.
That's awesome.
So this is the representative of the commission is here.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I gotcha. Did we talk to somebody about the wind question?
Well, so what I did is I went online, because there's hundreds of historic districts around the country. And I think it's submitted, so I took the largest signs I could find similar in size to that or bigger. I think I submitted 5 of them. There's plenty more, and they're not on the same sign, though, same hardware that we're proposing. So I don't know if somebody's done an engineering report along the lines, but apparently it's worked well in other communities, so. Product called Skybond, it's really light and super strong, so.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about the design? Is that sort of like the now the branding of Old Town? Is that picture?
So it's been in existence for a really long time. Ron Hodgson, local artist, designed it.
It's nice. Yeah.
And so Ron designed it, and there's actually 3 of these around town that have been in existence for a long time, but they're now kind of low and on power poles like that. And
They're beautiful.
our thought is the proposal to get them out there. I think 24 locations we're thinking about, so people know where the district is. The district's been, I think, since 1994 it was established. So it's been here for a really long time. Architecture Review would like to have so people knowing that there is an historic district, and that's why we put the effort into for historical preservation within that district. Help us out a lot, for sure, so. That's gonna be self-funded, but we understand the city doesn't have money for it, so. Individual groups donate or sponsor design, fund it.
Sounds great. Let us know how we can donate.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jack, and thank you, Architectural. Will you pass on our gratitude to Tark?
Yeah, so this is Ron Bettinger from the Park Review and Little Key.
Yeah. I'll let the whole gang know. We really appreciate it. Thanks. All right. Any other comments or questions on that?
Well, there's a potential motion to authorize the installation of Talent Old Town sign toppers at 24 locations as identified by the Talent Architectural Review Committee, with the signs and mounting hardware to be provided through private donations and installation by the Public Works Department.
I'll entertain a motion.
Having trouble finding this.
Gotcha.
Okay. Counselor Byers?
I move to authorize the installation of Talent Old Town sign toppers at 24 locations as identified by the Talent Architectural Review Committee, with the signs and mounting hardware to be provided through private donations and installation by the Public Works Department.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize the installation of Talent Old Town sign toppers at 24 locations as identified by the Talent Architectural Review Committee, with the signs and mounting hardware to be provided through private donations and installations by the Public Works Department. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks again. It's really terrific. The next item on the agenda is approval of the award of the contract for the water meter replacement project. Staff report?
Mayor and members of the council, the city issued a request for competitive sealed proposals for replacement of the city's water meter infrastructure as the process for selecting a contractor for furnishing a remote read meter system. Please see the attached memorandum from the city engineer, Jeff Ballard, outlining the process for evaluating the two proposals that were received. The proposal review panel consisted of the city manager, the public works superintendent, finance director, city engineer, and utility system superintendent from another agency. The evaluation panel unanimously recommended that Zener USA be selected as the preferred contractor for this project, and that the city proceed with negotiations for a contract for the provision of these meters and the metering system. There are several negotiation items associated with a final award for the contract, including development of a strategy for installing meters, which is not a part of this proposal. Funding for this project would be provided from federal ARPA funding. The total amount of funding budgeted is $650,000, which would include installation. It is estimated that the cost of installation would be about $200,000. Two proposals were received as noted in the staff report, one from Zener. The proposals were evaluated based upon the factors, including the references that we checked with other users of these meters and systems, evaluated with respect to ongoing support for the system from the providing company, evaluated in terms of the quality of the materials that would be used in the meter construction, things like metal versus plastic, and some other technical issues. So we then opened the bids. They're not bids, they're proposals. This is a service that doesn't need to be awarded to the low bidder. But in any event, the scoring of the two proponents was close. The city has the option to select either of the proponents. When the price quotes were opened, we found that Zenner quoted $448,499.49. And that H.W. Fowler quoted $909,474. And you'll see in the engineer's report, there's quite a difference also in the annual ongoing maintenance contract or advisory contract. So we're recommending that you authorize the city manager to negotiate a contract for the advanced metering infrastructure transition project with Zenner USA and return to the city council for final approval.
Any questions? I just want to clarify that the $200,000 installation would be on top of the $448,000. And it's all eligible
Yes.
under the ARPA.
Yes.
Okay, great. And yeah, that's it for my questions. Any further questions? I'll entertain a motion. Counselor, I do have one more question. I'm sorry. And are we then, is the motion, I can't, where's the motion? That might answer my question.
9.2.
There it is. Should we add a not to exceed number on that motion? A not to exceed dollar amount?
Well, that would mean you'd be going back out to new proposals.
If it was over the amount that's in our proposal?
Right, right. Well, you still have a shot at it when the contract comes back.
Okay, so if it did come in over, if you were negotiating and it did end up being more, it would come back to us. Is that correct?
Right, it's going to come back to you anyway, because this authorizes us to negotiate the details of the contract.
Okay, great. I'll entertain a motion. Counselor Penamara?
I move to direct the city manager to negotiate a contract for the advanced metering infrastructure transition project with Zenner USA and return to the city council for final approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to direct the city manager to negotiate a contract for the advanced metering infrastructure transition project with Zenner USA and return to the city council for final approval. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is approval landowner agreement with Rogue River Watershed Council. Staff report?
Mayor, members of the council, the Rogue River Watershed Council is sponsoring a project to improve ecological stream conditions in Bear Creek. You heard a presentation from them at the April 17th meeting. Access to conduct the project is needed through Lynn Newbury Park. This is a license agreement between the city and Rogue River Watershed Council to allow that access through the park to conduct the Bear Creek project that was discussed at your last meeting. You'll note that the document that is in the packet, although the comments are not in red, it's a red line copy. So the comments in the margin are from the city attorney. The agreement was not received in time to get those comments incorporated into the agreement, but they have been agreed to by the Watershed Council. So our recommendation is for you to authorize the city manager to execute the cooperative landowner agreement for the Bear Creek RM 19.0 project with the Rogue River Watershed Council.
Any further, any questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Collet?
I move to authorize the city manager to execute the cooperative landowner agreement for the Bear Creek River Mile 19 project with the Rogue River Watershed Council.
Second. We have a motion and a second to authorize the city manager to execute the cooperative landowner agreement for the Bear Creek RM 19.0 project with the Rogue River Watershed Council. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 9.4, discussion of elector eligibility for general election. Staff report?
Mayor and members of the council, in 2021, and then in 2022, there was a discussion and a motion to extend the temporary rule to allow those who were displaced from the Alameda fire and living outside of the city to still be eligible to run for and hold public office in the city limits. The election, the 2024 election is coming up soon. And people will be picking up their election packets next week. Hector, it starts Tuesday, starting Tuesday. So the question has arisen as to whether the council wishes to continue that policy or not continue it and go back and allow the charter provision, which requires residency to go essentially back into effect, although it was never taken out of the charter. It was just suspended for this emergency purpose back in 2021 and 2022. So we have prepared a motion if you want to extend it, but if you don't want to extend it, you need to take no action.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Penamara?
Yeah, so I'm very grateful to the council because I was able to continue to serve as a result of this. I do notice that not everybody's come back yet. Talent Mobile Estates, for example, is something that we saw that's coming along nicely, but folks have not returned to the city limits who may return, and those are people who could, I think, really contribute to the leadership of our community. And I'm very much mindful that this is also extending to city commissions and committees as well. I would like to see it extended further until we fully recover the housing, especially from the low-income housing that has been lagging in our city.
Any other comments or questions? I appreciate the comments by Councilor Penamara, and I don't disagree, but I would also point out that in the several elections that we've had since the fire, we haven't seen any other applications coming in from any of the other areas, and I do think that that might be worth considering. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Well,
Oh, Councilor Penamara?
yeah, and if the council would feel like it's, it's time to close the door for elections, I still strongly believe that committees and commissions maybe could be considered separately for, folks who are looking to return to participate if they would like. But yeah, I'll give you a motion.
Yep, Councilor Penamara?
Okay. I move to adopt a temporary rule that defines a qualified elector in the context of council, commission, or committee membership to include those who were at the time of the Alameda fire residents of the city of Talent and who were displaced by the fire and who are registered to vote in Talent and who affirm the intention to reside in the city within, I'll say, within 2 years after the first council meeting of 2025. And I guess I have to do part B, expires 2 years after the first council meeting of 2025. And that was just the 2 years was, sorry, just kind of a random guess for people.
Sounds like it's from one election to another.
Oh,
Or
yeah.
one,
well,
yeah,
do
not
that
one
too.
election, but one service to another.
Yeah.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt a temporary rule that defines a qualified elector in the context of a council, commission, or committee membership to include those who were at the time of the Alameda fire residents of the city of Talent and who were displaced by the fire and who are registered to vote in Talent and who affirm the intention to reside in town, in the city of Talent within a 2-year period after the first council meeting of 2025 and expires after 2 years after the first council meeting of January 2025. Is there any further discussion? I just have a question. If we did that, would then there be, if somebody applied, would there be like some sort of process that somebody has to go through that affirms all of these things, like a checklist or some kind of additional process?
I don't know what we did last
Would
time.
we add it
We
to
don't.
the application maybe?
I would think we definitely should. There needs to be a way, because the council will have to make a determination that they are duly residents of the city, and that they are voting in the city. So we would need something from them, preferably in the form of an affidavit that would swear that those are the case.
Counselor Penamara?
I would just add, voter registration is public record from the county clerk, so we could check that. I think the city does have to check residency, right? I see Hector, you're nodding. Did you have to do that last time? And you check it through the county clerk, and so you can see the registration, voter address and all of that. So I think,
In this case, we would have to check voter registration before the fire.
well, just residency before the fire, I think.
Right.
Yeah, the way we worded it, residency before the fire, voter registration now.
I just want to make sure that if we do this, it's easy for the staff. And so if we, is it too late to add a questionnaire and perhaps even a submittal of documents like a letter addressed to them pre-fire, a bill? Well, of course, most people lost everything in the fire, so it's unlikely, but some sort of easy verification. What I don't want to see is the staff getting caught up in trying to chase down a bunch of information, although it's not likely there'd be many applications.
No,
from-
I think if we were able to check their voter status before the fire
Yeah.
and verify that they were registered to vote in the city of Talent before the fire.
Well, we need to know now too. I mean, somebody could have moved to Weed and decided that they were gonna stay there indefinitely, but they want to come back and vote.
Yeah, so the voting, that record is all from the county clerk. I think it's $20 or something to get it. We need to.
So, David, you're concerned about where they're residing now.
Yes, because they need, council will need to determine that they are residing here. That's your obligation under the charter.
That's what we're waiving.
You can't waive that. You have to decide that even though they may be temporarily someplace else, you're considering them qualified as residents here. So that's a determination that council will have to make. And you have to make it on the basis of some evidence. The question is, where does that evidence come from? Does the staff have to track that down, or does the applicant need to provide it?
That's what I'm getting at, is
Yeah.
that we add it to the application in such a way that the burden is on the applicant to provide that information.
Yeah.
If we're able to, that's what I'm asking is it too late to add that to an
Yes.
application?
I think-
Counselor Byers?
Would a photocopy of a government issued ID suffice? It would have to have their place of residence, the address of residence listed on there. And if an individual is in temporary housing, intending to return, they would not have changed their address on their issue ID.
Seems to me there are a lot of possible permutations.
Mhm.
For instance, somebody could have moved to Reading, gotten a California driver's license,
Mhm.
even though they intend to come back,
Mhm.
because California requires it to get a license, a driver's license. They're going to stay there for some period of time. So and I don't think we can. I don't think we can direct exactly what proof they have to provide. We just ask them to provide some
document.
verification that they really are residents, really are voting here. And then the council will have to look at that and decide if that is sufficient.
Mhm.
We can come up with a list of potential documents that they could supply,
That sounds good.
similar to DMV requirement.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. We've determined in deliberation that the application is achievable. Is there any other deliberation? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is resolution 2024-090R, scheduling election of City of Talent officers on November 5th, 2024. Staff report?
Well, the staff report is very brief. There's an election scheduled for November 5th of this year. Citizens will be asked to elect councilors for seats 2, 4, and 6. Each of those are serving a 4-year term. The city recorder is tasked with notifying the public of the election details. Candidates for these positions must file nomination forms from the city recorder between June 5th and August 20th of 2024. And we prepared the necessary resolution for you to adopt calling the election. And the potential motion is in the staff report on page 88.
Are there any questions or comments? Council Byers?
No, I'm just ready with the motion.
Okay, anybody else? Question or comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion. Council Byers?
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-090-R, a resolution scheduling an election of Talent City officers for the November 5th, 2024 general election.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2024-090-R, a resolution scheduling an election of Talent City officers for the November 5th, 2024 general election. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Roll call. Oh, is it a roll call? Yes, it is, a resolution. Thank you, Councilor Penamara. Roll call, please.
Counselor Cully,
Aye.
Counselor Penamara,
Yes.
Counselor Byers,
Yes.
Counselor Thorn Miller,
Yes.
motion carries. Mayor.
Thank you, Lucero. So packets are available as of June 5, 2024. All right, the next item on the agenda is commission and committee reports. Are there any commission and committee reports? The planning commission hasn't had any applications and hasn't met
Right.
anything significant. Anybody else? All right. Next item on the agenda is other business and future agenda items. Anybody? Other business or future agenda items?
I think we didn't put together the look ahead for this meeting, so we'll get back into that routine.
Great, thank you. I have a question, when we will resume our council rules discussion.
Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I'd like to get us back on track with that. Just so that we can settle that matter and dispense of any further kerfuffle around the concerns. Counselor Byers?
So it's looking like our final budget meeting is May 29th. Perhaps we could resume the study sessions with the council rules in June.
Everybody amenable to that?
Bless you.
Thank you. I've never had a bless you ahead of time, but I sure liked it. Okay, so, yeah, it would be great if we could finish those by the end of June and just set a goal to get them done. I mean, I think we're around the big corner, right?
Yes.
Yeah, good. I
Good
do.
work, too.
What's that?
Been good work. too.
Yeah, that has been good work and there's been I mean, across the board, there's just been some really good changes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is written communications. There are none. So we'll adjourn this meeting at 8:38. Thank you, everybody.